Hi, welcome again. In this video, we are going to learn about stored procedure in SQL Server. So first, we need to know what is a stored procedure, which we also call in short SP. So a stored procedure is nothing but a set of statements which we are going to write in some of the name. So we are giving a name to the set of actions. Now, what are the actions we can do? We can do insert, update, delete, create objects. We can do any other thing, DDL, DML. So there are two types of commands we can perform. Data definition language, and data manipulation language. So basically there are two ways anything we can do inside the stored procedure. Okay. So now what else? So basically this is written to serve some purpose. Maybe we need to push some data, maybe we need to retrieve some data, or maybe we have to take some actions. Maybe we have to temporarily load into temporary tables and then produce a result. Maybe we have to perform only updates. Now, we are going to go through the syntax and everything, but what are the common interview questions you will get in interview is, what is the difference between stored procedure and trigger? So we have covered all those type of questions in our blog. You can refer our blog below. Now I'm going to share a document about the definitions. Okay, so here, so basically, as I said, stored procedure is nothing but it's a set of command we are keeping in one particular object, which is much organized. It is pre-compiled. Why? Because we are defining the set of queries what we want to perform, and we are storing this particular set of queries in an object called stored procedure. Now SQL Server, as a SQL engine, it knows that it has an object which has a certain query. So when something is already there, it can plan better for those execution. Now how it can plan? That is called SQL query plan. How to execute, what to execute. So internally with the metadata information, SQL Server already knew that your table weigh how much rows it is there, how much GB data it is, how much terabyte data it is, how many columns it has. It knows what are the indexes has been created, which are the primary key, foreign keys. So metadata information is there within the SQL Server. Now, when we use some set of tables, we are trying to send or write few set of code inside the stored procedure. It knows better what will work faster and what will give you the faster result. So our purposes are maybe insert, delete, update, or manipulating any data, or maybe creating a new object. It can be any purpose. Mostly people will use it for inserting the data. Most of the cases, inserting and updating and delete. This is the most common scenario. It's very rare that we create set of tables or we create some object inside using the procedure, but we can do that. Okay, so now let's see and quickly see the definition. So how the syntax goes is create procedure name as begin and end. So it is very simple. I hope you can see on the screen. So here, this is the syntax. Now let's see. Now how do we write a query inside it? It's very simple. Create procedure name. Let's say here we have a get customer, right? Let me put it on the focus. Okay, so I hope you can see it more. Okay, so now you can see here we have written a SQL query inside it. Okay, select star from a customer, and what that procedure is returning, it's returning all the data from the customer. It's just a sample. Okay, so let's say we have to modify the procedure after creating it. How we can do it? Using alter command. Using alter, we can modify the procedure as well. In the same way, you can see now so far when you see this example, this is with 0 parameter. It means we are not supplying anything. We are not doing a conditional result set. We don't want in return a conditional result set. What it means, suppose I wanted to see the data only related to the specific category, or maybe the specific customer, maybe specific city. Then I have to tell stored procedure that, okay, only show me the data related to this city, all the customers, but only this city. So then we have to define those variables. That is called nothing but a parameters when we define in the header body of the stored procedure. So suppose if we have to do a conditional search and we want to return that result set, then we have to pass a parameter. So this is an example, what you see on the screen. This is an example of zero parameterized stored procedure. Now we are going to see, this is an example of providing a one parameter. It can be n number of parameters. Mostly I've seen 10, 20, and these kind of parameters, 30, 40, but not more than that. Do not try to get more complicated with your, way of writing SQL. You can divide that procedure into multiple way and then you can do it. Okay. Now coming back to this. So you see here, we have defined a parameter, which is a city, varchar 50. Here we are comparing where set star from customer, where city equal to city variable. This variable is nothing but what we call in terms of header body of the stored procedure, we call it parameter, stored procedure SQL parameter, the parameter of procedure. We are supplying the value. So it's a template. It's not holding the data. Stored procedure is not holding the data. This is another confusion most of my students has. So they think, will it store the data? No, it will not store the data. It's a set of code written inside the SQL Server as an object. Now, how it perform? It perform based on the template. How a template perform? It's a set of steps. Template is nothing but a formula. You supply A and B, and the formula will do A plus B equal to C. It's a formula. So procedure is also a formula. It's a set of statement. You just pass what is needed, and then it will produce you the end result based on the parameters. So suppose if you have done a chemistry lab exercises in your school days, if you're a student of chemistry, then suppose somebody will ask you to do H2O2 or hydrogen or something. Then what you will do? You will go to one element, then you will take another element, you put them into the tube, and then you form some formula of chemistry, right? Based on the formula, it produces the results. So that formula is a template when you read a chemistry book. But when you apply, you are actually doing with the real numbers, real values, and it will going to perform a physical way. Okay, in the same way, just consider the procedure also the same way. It's a template. It's a template, and we are just providing the parameter values. We are specifying which table we need and what condition we have to keep, and then it's as simple as that. It's performing the result. We are going to do it, but before that, let's see how to drop a procedure. Suppose we created, but now we don't need it. We have to remove that procedure from our database. We don't need it anymore. In that case, you can write drop procedure name. Now, what are the types of parameters in stored procedure? So before we understand the type, we will definitely go through the basic examples. But something you are supplying to the procedure, which values will be used inside the procedure, which is required for procedure to perform an action based on these parameters. Those are defined mostly, and those are defined as an input. Means it is required to supply to execute the procedure, so that it can do some action. Now output, the name itself is saying few variables, few parameters procedure has to supply when stored procedure execution is done. Now you must be thinking, procedure is already having a set of queries, it's returning that, why we need some more result set? So there is a need. I'll tell you that need right now. We will go on Google and we'll show you that how it works. So sometimes procedure has to return the result, let's say 10 rows, 20 rows, whatever it is, and it has to return the total number of rows. It has to return the total number of rows. So it means you are expecting your procedure to return two things. One is result set. Another is total number of rows which returning by the result set one. How many rows you are returning, So that information also a procedure can return. Yes, it can return using a output parameter. So this is the use of output parameter. So today let's learn a simple procedure. Yeah, encryption is not that important. Yeah, so you can see these are the different types of procedures. So we also have a system stored procedure. So system stored procedure is nothing but which is written by Microsoft for our uses, so that we can make use of these procedures and we can do something which a normal user can't do, something at the higher level on the SQL Server side, something internally. Let's say renaming an object, it becomes an easy. If you write your own code to renaming something, it takes some time to write some set of lines of code, right? But you just take help of sp_rename and you supply the required parameters. Then what it will do? It will perform the renaming of any object, table, views, procedures, column name, anything. It can rename anything inside the SQL Server. Okay. sp_help text will give you the definition of your view, your procedure, your function. Definition is what? When we write create procedure name, and inside the query. So this is a complete definition. We are defining with a set of queries what is inside, what is on the top, what is in the bottom, everything. It's a definition. So sp_help text will return us all the definition, all the metadata, what is written, all the text, all the SQL queries is written by sp_help text if you use that one. Okay, so it's very simple. You can see these are the simple examples. Okay, so now where do we find procedures? Okay, so go to your SQL Server, go to your database, then go to programmability. Inside the programmability, go to the stored procedure. Inside the stored procedure, you will be able to find your procedure in here. Okay, so why we have mentioned this? Because many students also, after creating it, they are looking for the procedure where they can see it, because physically it has to be available like a table, but it does not store the data. Remember, okay, it's just in a template or formula. We understood just now, right, with the example of chemistry lab. Okay. So yeah, so another way of running a procedure is just right click and say execute procedure, which we are going to do. But before we do that, at least you should have a glimpse of what's coming in this video, and that's a little procedure. Yeah. So you can see in one shot, I think this is a wonderful picture prepared by our team. So which is database name, folder name, and then our procedure name, you see. So you can find all this detail in our blog in case you're interested to read full details about the procedures. So this is another example of parameters in SQL. So what is input and output? So we just talked about, right? There are two types of parameters. So you can see create procedure. So now p name. So now this is nothing but input parameters, because by default, if you do not specify what it becomes an input parameters. Okay, so it can be used in a where condition. Okay, now this is also a simple example of passing a employee ID and filtering with the HR employee table. Now with multiple parameters, you can see here employee ID, employee name. Now we are supplying more than one. Sorry, we are supplying, yes, we can. So this is an example of supplying more than one value in procedure, and you can see we can use both of them inside the where condition. Okay, so example 2. Okay, so example 3. So it is a little more complex, day by day or step by step. When you see our blog example, we start with the simple, and then we also, we want you to at least touch the complex part of that particular thing which you are learning on our website. Okay, which you can see thing here. Okay. Yeah, so this is an example of setting a default value to a parameter if it is not supplied. So sometimes a procedure, when we are calling a procedure, a user is not supplying something. In that case, should it take default? Yes. Sometimes we have 5 parameters, and sometimes our calculation or our action is not dependent on all 5. We just need minimum 2, and if they are supplying more 5, then it's okay, we can take it. But if they don't supply 3 and they only supply 2 out of 5 parameters, if they only supply 2, then what we can do? We can make 3 parameters as a default value. We can set it up so that our procedure will work considering the default value. So this is we call how to set default parameters. You can see, just supply the value like this. So the employee name, we are just supplying the value. If employee name is not supplied, it's fine. Still it will work. If employee ID is not supplied, still it will work. So we are going to also do the practical. Now, the other important thing is output parameter. So first we are just seeing this document and we are learning and hearing those names. This is important. Okay, so far we have seen creation, alteration, drop, input of parameter, output parameter, default value set, you're seeing zero parameterize. So now you are little much familiar in your when you heard these things. Now you are a little bit comfortable here. What is a stored procedure? Okay, so now before jumping directly into the SQL syntax, at least it's a good idea to have the theoretical knowledge, what it is, what purpose it is serving. It may be doing insert, update, delete. It can do anything. Mostly 3 operations: insert, update, and delete into the tables. To perform these actions, we are picking up our code, SQL statement into the procedures, and we are letting this procedure to run or execute so that our data keep coming to our table. Okay. Okay, now let's say output. So how do we define output? We just mention the output when we define on the heading, when we define the parameters, parameter 1, 2, 3. You see, we just mention the output. What about these? The moment we don't mention, it is default, it is SQL Server understand, it is an input parameter. So there are only 2, input and output. 2 types of parameters can be in SQL Server. Okay, so now you can see in variable 3, we are setting up variable 1 plus variable 2, and the value will be written with the variable 3. Okay, we'll do it with another example, that output parameter, with the real Google example. Okay. Okay, this is the same. So yeah, encryption is not important right now. Okay, so I think we are good. So let's quickly get into SQL Server. Okay. So before that, I'll use DemoDB, or I'll use bita. Okay, so now I'll increase the size a little bit so that you can see. Create proc. We can also write procedure, but SQL Server also understand that your purpose is to create procedure. So proc is also enough. Okay. Create proc. Let's start with sp. We'll say sp underscore addition. Add 2 numbers. First, let's add 2 number, right? We are directly starting with 2 parameters. How? Open bracket you can do, or without bracket also it takes. Okay. Let's say this is parameter 1. What int? Type as a int. Parameter 2. What type? Sorry. Variable name has to be, it's better, it has to be small as per the SQL standards. But data types has to be in uppercase. As, begin, and end. It's as simple as that. You see, very simple syntax. Create proc, procedure name, parameters. If it is required, if it is not required, it's also fine. Now, here we are saying select. I'm not doing anything, just simply P1 plus P2. That's it. That's what I'm going to create it. Done. So this is a creation part. Okay. So second step, what my students do, they try to create here, and then they immediately think they forget something, and then they will do alter because they wanted to add something, or they wanted to add more code or something. So what they will do, they'll say alter. Okay. Now here what they will do, execute. This is how we call the stored procedure, because we define. Now it's time to use the procedure. So how execute, procedure name. Now we have to supply the value of parameter 1. So we can supply 10. In the second position, we have to supply the parameter 2 value. So let's see. I'm going to select and execute. You see, now it's returning 30. Now what they will do, they will not select this. They will just keep they don't even keep sometimes begin and end. If you don't keep begin and end, still it will work. Still it will work. It will work. They'll do like this. Now, when you do like this, when you run the entire command, in your mind, you think, oh, SQL Server procedure, I only have written till here to here. It will only create the definition from here. Now, from here, it will a separate line. No, it's not a separate line. Make sure what you are executing, what you write under your procedure. Make sure whatever window your procedure is open, do not try to execute the procedure on the same window. Otherwise, you will end up, creating a part of the procedure. So execution of the same procedure where we are defining, it's not good. Now, if I'll execute this, you see, you see the infinite, you see this query completion with the error, you see how many number of rows it's able to use n number of things. After that, it's saying, no, you are producing so many times, so it's errored out. You see? You see, now it's saying maximum store procedure function trigger view is called, so this is not good. You can't do it, so make sure you do these exercises into the another query window. Here, go to the new query window and execute. Let's modify this again. Another thing is always use begin and end. Okay, this is good. It can take procedure you can create without begin and end, but it's good practice that you should have it around your SQL queries begin and end. Okay, remember this. Okay, so I'm modifying and then I'm executing here. You see, now I'm also changing the value 40 and 20. Let's see. So you see now procedure is performing as a template. We are just supplying two values and it's adding up. The same example we did when we learn variables. We were adding variables. We were doing if and else. We have learned case statements. So we have done many things. But now we are doing the same thing inside the procedure. We are trying to add two numbers inside the procedure. Okay. So I hope this is good now. Okay, now let's do something. Let's do we have any let me see, do we have any employee tables inside the bita cloud? If no, we'll have to create. Right now, no, but I know in the demo DB we have. So let's create another procedure inside the demo DB. Okay. Create proc get employee employee ID, and because I know what I want to retrieve the employee information based on the employee ID. This time I'm not using begin and end, but you guys should use it. Okay, so I'm just putting where let me see. What's the column name? Invalid object. Oh, sorry. No, it's a employee ID, not ID. Yeah, that's the column name. IntelliSense we can use, and employee. Yeah. Okay. So let me create this procedure. Okay. Done. Oh, I didn't see. So let's see the data, and then where to execute into the next query window. Okay. So I'm going to the new query and putting here. First, let's see the table. Okay. So we have 1 to 5. Let's copy the name because we need the name. Get employee. Okay. What's the syntax to execute the procedure? You can write exec also instead of execute. Okay. Just the procedure name, and then you have to supply which employee information you need. So you have to supply the employee ID. You see? Okay. So now I want two things. Okay. Now let's talk about output parameter also. Suppose, before output, let's do a default. Okay. So suppose now I wanted to do a default. Okay. So I will have another example here. I'll name this as a sp default _ get employee. Perfect. Here can I write like this? Will it work or will it give error? It worked. So this is how we defined a default value to the employee ID. So maybe we don't have 10 employees, we only have 5. So I have to give within the range of 1 to 5. Sorry. Now I have to alter it because I have to modify. Okay. So now done. I'm using the control E to execute procedures. Okay. So now done. Okay. So now let's execute this. This time I'm not providing the parameter value. You see in this we have provided, and this procedure also has one parameter. But let's say if I will not provide, what happens? You see, if it is no value is supplied, if the no value is supplied is able to take whatever the default value is set inside the procedure. Let me show you again. See, it is set to 2. If nothing is supplied, it's going to consider the value of 2. Now you clear with the default parameters. But also let's try, this particular procedure, which is above. Let me show you here. This does not have a default value. If I'll try to execute this without supplying the parameter, then what happens? Let's see. I'm going to write for you, and then I'm going to execute this, selecting this line and execute. It's saying procedure function expects a parameter employee ID which was not supplied. So you can't call the procedure without the parameter if you have not set it up as a default value. Okay, so now we are good. We are clear with default parameters. So now let's understand the output parameter. The third. So maybe I'll use this one. So this I'll name as sp underscore output, right? Get employee and the total. The total count also. So right now I don't want this as a parameterized. I just want to keep it. So it should return me all the employees information. And it should also tell me how many employees it is returning. Two things I'm expecting. Okay, so in that case I can give the total count. Int output. Okay, done. Now this direction is set as output. Okay, now let's see. Now if I also want to set the value that what's the total count, then how can I set it? We have seen that in our previous sessions, we have seen how to set a variable value in many different ways, using the set, using select. Okay, see this. Select total count equal to count of star from employees 12. Okay, now I'm setting the total count. This is nothing but a total count, right? What my query is returning, it's returning the same. I'm just writing here count of star means counting the number of rows. Okay, so let's do this. Let's create it. Done. No error. We are lucky. So let's consume this. How do we consume this? How do we consume a procedure which is having the output parameter? This is an interview question. Okay, they might, if you go for that technical written round, definitely they will try to make some situation where you have to write a procedure with the output parameters, and then they will test you. How do you call it? How do you call that procedure? Okay, so let me show you. So before we call, it's expecting it will perform. It will return set star from employee. Then it's expecting, where do I store the value? I have a value of total count, set star from count of star. I have the variable value, but how do I give to the user who is executing, who is calling me? So we have to create a bridge between a client and a server. So because we are making a request as a client, we are executing the procedure. Okay, the procedure is exist in SQL Server. Now, how this server and client will meet? We have to create a bridge. How to create a bridge? Give them a variable, give them an empty box, and in that box they will put it the total count. So this is how it works. So let's create a variable. Declare declare, let's say, CNT. I'm going to give a different name here so that so that you won't think I have to give the same name. It's good, you can give the same name also, it's not a problem. Okay, let's see. Okay, CNT int. Here we'll say output, and then select CNT, because here it's a output, but here I want to return also. I want to return the value. So what should I get it? Select count. Okay, so let's run it together. Let's see what errors we get. We didn't get any error. Good. We are again lucky. It's a good day. So you see, there are 5 rows it returns. And then here, I hope you can see it if you, I can zoom it, but you can see it's at 5. It's giving us the total 5 rows has been returned. So how wonderful it is. You see, we created a variable, we are supplying as output, and then we are getting it. This is our variable, user side. What is the server side? What in the definition, in the template, in the definition, let's see. In the definition, the variable name is total CNT as output. And here we are filling the value. Okay. So I hope now you understood this is the way we can use input, output, and many other things. Mostly we have retrieved the data based on the filter, based on the employee ID. Now, what else we can do? We can do insert, update, and delete, and that we can do it in maybe next video, because this video is already exceeding 14-15 minutes. Okay, so thank you. Let's do those advanced things into the next videos. Thank you for watching.